Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Championship Check-In podcast, checking in on all things on the greatest league in world football, the EFL Championship, with myself, Benjamin Bloom, and the great Sam Parkin. Sam, I focused on the hot takes video I did yesterday on the channel on the defensive quality at the top of the division. But for Parkin's pick today, we're going to be looking at probably the two most entertaining sides in the division and the two top scorers, Norwich and Boro. Good morning. Where do you want to start?
Morning, mate. Yeah, I think you've got some teams at the top, like we spoke on the last podcast, who are on, I wouldn't say the cusp, but that could be hitting some incredible numbers defensively this season. The way that Burnley are defending, the lack of goals that are going in their net is just astonishing. So, as good as that is, and as much as you want to shower them with praise, game's about notching at the other end, isn't it? And we'll come on to predictions later in the separate podcast. But I thought there may be a shed load at Carrow Road, and there indeed was. And Middlesbrough are thrilling us as well. So we're going to talk about the entertainers outside of the top 3, 4, Norwich and Middlesbrough.
So it was Norwich 4, Luton 2. I saw that one come in. You actually had 3-2 in the predictions as well, which is quite unlucky, isn't it? I saw that come in and I thought, my God, has Saints scored another hat trick? But they're actually starting to share them around now. Cernak scored a couple, didn't he? Marcondes, who was like Mr. Luxury player at Brentford, wasn't he? Parachute him in off the bench and for big games and he'll get you a goal. But he's in there and they're putting it about. Forson, who we liked at the start of the season, is back. Sargent's not even there. Norwich have been a bit up and down. How are you seeing them at the moment? Because it does seem that it's easy to say after they've scored 6 in midweek and 4 at the weekend that they're, just going to be all out attack now. But how do you see this panning out and this purple patch for Norwich? And what are you thinking about their status as the entertainers?
Well, I think they are pretty well positioned considering they didn't win for 7 games. And to have Nunez back, to have Ashley Barnes on the bench, Hernandez returning to form somewhat in this game in his cameo, and all of a sudden having discovered maybe that Cianach can play down the middle as opposed to wide on the right hand side, which I don't know if it doesn't suit him, or I don't know if it's just a young new player into the league who is having struggles adapting. But to see him scoring instinctively probably is no surprise. Maybe you stick him in the 18-yard box with his physical attributes where you don't have to think about it too much. Maybe he took his goals really well. I suppose more eye-catching was the way he made the goal for Marcondes. Really good anticipation, laid it on a plate for him. And Marcondes absolutely is a massive plus from the last few games. I think 4 goal involvements in the last 3. He's someone who can fit in where the manager feels the most adequate for him if there's injuries and what have you. I wasn't hugely confident that he could play as the centre forward, and that was maybe how it played out in one of those games. But yeah, I mean, when you consider the length of the injury list, the players that are returning, and probably solving this conundrum with maybe who should play centre forward in the absence of Sargent and Barnes, they must be feeling really good about things this morning. And I think the bigger picture is that there seems to be kind of quite a relaxed notion at Carrow Road this season, in that they're enjoying the football. This is some of the most entertaining stuff they've had in maybe a few seasons, and there isn't probably the pressure realistically. I think, I wouldn't say they overachieved last year, but I never felt they were going to conquer that playoff campaign. And I think now they're enjoying the football. Is it a season where they can get the playoffs? So if they can continue conceding at the level that they are, when you contrast it to the setup and the the way that Millwall accrue points and the way that West Brom accrue points, and who's the other one? Blackburn. There's different ways to go about it. Are they going to be able to maintain shipping the goals that they are? I found a stat. I've made a stat up, right, that I'll give you. I think it makes some kind of sense. It might be nonsense, but here we go. Along with Coventry and Luton, Norwich have conceded 2 or more goals on 10 occasions. That's the worst in the division. So, I mean, even saying that now, having Coventry, Luton and Norwich in that statistic shows you that all 3 of them are a little bit loose defensively, but Norwich are obviously so good going the other way that they're masking it. But that's my overall take on it, that I think there's a pretty relaxed kind of feeling around the place at the moment. And I suppose in the last few weeks, when the things weren't particularly rosy, you could point towards the absences. And now that people are returning, we're seeing, I think, just how good the coach is, and also that the recruitment's been pretty enterprising as well.
Fascinating what you say about the relaxed kind of notion, because you know full well, Sam, it stays relaxed until they're in 6th place with 5 games to go or whatever, and it's all of a sudden, tournament football coming now, because generally we think defences win leagues and tournaments, and,
Yeah.
smashing goals in win you games, right?
Yeah, just a couple of other points. Obviously, they're missing Cordoba at the moment, who, when I've seen, hasn't wowed me. But the fans tell me that he's been brilliant start of the season. And I spoke to one of the local journalists who covers Norwich the other day, and I said to him, how have they been left? A club like Norwich, with the director of football model and with their ambitions, I suppose, in the second tier, going to be one of the most fancied clubs, so on and so forth. How have they been left in a scenario where they haven't really got a centre forward to come in when Sargent and Barnes are not available? So Ida was obviously the kind of next in line, who was coming in and doing okay. I don't think he ever fully won over the faithful, if memory serves. But obviously off at Celtic, no one really coming through, I don't think, currently to play that role. So that was a big issue. And if it's been solved at the weekend, that's incredible for them. And Barnes can be kind of drip fed back in. And the other thing that I noted this morning, 15 goals in the final third of games this season, far and away the most. So I think that's the powers of recovery, and it's also probably an ability to create chances at will, keep going. So many goals in the side. The hunger of Sights to get his name on the score sheet, irrelevant of the game state. You could see his jubilation when he slid that one home in the last knock-ins the other day. So, yeah, I thought that was another interesting one. They're a team, obviously, that are fighting till the end and getting a lot of goals late in games.
So, alongside Norwich as the entertainers, the second top scorers in the league, Middlesbrough at 1.8 per game. Sam, if we take out that John Eustace special in the middle there, the 0-1 home defeat, they've scored 18 goals in their last 4 wins. So they're scoring 4 or more goals on average in each of those wins, with a 3, a 4, a 5 and a 6. Quite brilliantly, when these two met, they drew 3-3, which is right on brand for the both of them. Middlesbrough, we've had pegged as kind of flaky, make really lovely numbers that you and I drool over, and then, where are they in the top 2 picture? They're not quite there. But is there not a sense now with Azaz clicking? What have I got? 9 goal contributions in 4 games. His last 4 appearances. Finn Azaz with Latte Lath, with Doak as well, who you like, the lone player. I think they can have a good run at piling the goals on here. Where do you stand with Boro? And can you make a comparison with Norwich as well?
Well, I would say that Norwich's biggest issue is the concession of goals. And I would say, I think it's 27, isn't it? Bottom 7 for goals against. Middlesbrough are slightly better in that regard, but there's an inconsistency maybe about Middlesbrough. And I know that may be just like quite a simplistic statement when you look at Leeds losing at Blackburn yesterday, for example. But I mean, the last 6 games, you spoke about the goals that they've plundered, but the other 2 were home defeats without scoring. So there's just a little bit
Totally.
of that reality that every now and again, when you get fully on board with them, they let you down. It could be personnel. It could be a little bit the luxuries that Michael Carrick's got at his disposal, how to get them in the team. I think, it's difficult when you've got Conway and Latte Lath, obviously both really good Championship goal scorers, deserve to be starting games, and it's hard to get them both in. He was able to do it with Cameron Archer and what was his
Chuba
name?
Akpom.
Chuba Akpom. There you go. I mean, out of sight, out of mind, isn't it? Not heard his name for a while, but what a season he had. Those 2 in tandem. So I don't think either of them really are comfortable enough dropping into the pocket and getting on the ball. We'll probably mention Liam Cudden later. He's someone that's doing that for Swansea, interestingly, and doing it really, really well. You got to have that eye for a pass. You got to have that awareness to get on the half turn. I think Tommy Conway and Latte Lath want to be playing around the 18-yard box and being slid through and finishing off cutbacks and so on and so forth. So I think that's a little bit of an issue. But I think if we just look at the last 2 games, not having Azaz and Hackney against Blackburn, I think was essentially a big difference maker for this this comfortable win against Hull at the weekend. Even if Azaz, I think there was fitness doubts about both of them, and both of them were outstanding on the day. Conway as well, very good. Doak on the right hand side, extremely good. And the other thing to note, I suppose, from the game, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't had an opportunity this morning, but Matt Clark was given obviously a rest, and Dale Fry came back in, who I think only made his second appearance of the season. So to have him back, Edmondson's obviously the other one who you know well, gives them a bit more strength there. Dale Fry's good on the ball. That was one thing that I did note from the night at QPR when they won handsomely, but I wasn't sure they were brilliant at playing out, and Michael Carrick obviously really encourages that. So Fry will help them there. Maybe it'll be Fry and Clark at times, who I think are probably better on the ball than Edmondson, but Edmondson could probably match them in the defensive stakes. So, that was, I think, big, having Fry in, having Hackney in, and having Azaz, who is now second to Sainz in goals and assists terms. He's having a phenomenal season, real difference maker for them. So I suppose that's the biggest difference I've seen between the 2. The inconsistency maybe is more Middlesbrough, and probably the lack of defensive nous at times for Norwich in keeping clean sheets and stopping conceding. But I think it's going to be difficult for them to match the 3 that are obviously leading the way at the moment. And I think that's probably, I don't know, I think it's probably a little bit depth. I think it's probably a little bit of additional quality. So I wouldn't be astonished if Middlesbrough were there till late in the day, but I still think that playoffs is probably a more realistic proposition.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because when you do get to playoffs, and we've literally got, you mentioned Akpom and Archer, we've literally got a case study of Michael Carrick beating up, scoring loads of goals in the division, and coming up against Mark Robbins and a 0-0 and a 0-1, and you're out of the playoffs, aren't you? I did put a poll up, Sam, on the community tab on the Benjamin Bloom football channel that said which of these 2 free scoring sides is the best to watch. Go and have a vote. Sam, Middlesbrough 61%, Norwich 39%. So go and have a vote on that. And we thought it only right if I talked about the defences. If you do want to hear, by the way, about the top 3, go to the hot takes video yesterday, and it's all.
I think I've covered both of them live once at this point, and I would say that Norwich impressed me more in their 4-0 win over Hull, albeit it was against Hull. We were very open, than Middlesbrough did in their 4-1 win at QPR. Don't ask me why. I won't elaborate on that, but I'll look forward to covering them again in the
Because
weeks
you
ahead, and
love
I'll give.
QPR and you were
Uh,
finding it a painful experience, right?
no, maybe I just I was well. I said cover. I was working on the Norwich game, and I was obviously there
You're a
as a
fan,
punter
yeah.
for the Middlesbrough game. Listen, they were hugely better than QPR on the night and thoroughly deserved to win. But I wasn't wowed by them.
Okay.
But obviously they don't need to be wowing me. They just need to get the job done and get in the top six. But it'd be interesting to know. Well, I'll put it on you. Who would you right now? Who would you expect to finish higher?
Middlesbrough, I
Yeah,
think, right now.
yeah. I
But
probably would go for that now as well at the
I
moment.
always
But
say this about Norwich,
mm,
though. Norwich sniff a championship playoff, and they're in there, and they sniff a promotion, and maybe that changed last season with the playoff defeat. But yeah, it's a good debate, and we do need these goal scoring sides. Speaking of goal scoring, Sam, we're going to go to we need to talk about now, and it is double Desmond's Coventry 2, Cardiff 2, and Swansea 2. Pompey 2. Please, guys, get in the comments if you were at either of those games. Sam, if I can kick us off on Swansea 2, Pompey 2. First game, so big shout out to the Pompey fans, especially if they were at Blackburn for a game called off and then at home to Millwall for a game called off. First game in 20 days. Josh Murphy, I'm interested in your take on. He's showing some real quality now. And at the end of the first half, a couple of little bits of brilliance from him, really, to give them a 2-0 lead. And then conceded right at the end of the stoppage. So I'm going to ask you about that with your player's hat on, actually. 7 points in 4, though, for Pompey after horrible start that we talked about a lot on the podcast. This is a trend up that I quite like and is something the Pompey fans can get into. But when we parlay that into the conversation about Swansea, Nico Schmidt in goal for Pompey made a ridiculous save and Swansea missed a ton of chances. You've already bigged up Cullen, so I don't have to in an earlier segment in the show. Swansea, though, weirdly had been under 1.5 conceded for the first 15 games. And then all of a sudden, the last 3 games, they've conceded over 1.5 and all of them have conceded 8 across the game. So, bit of a weird one to analyse. I'm honing in on Swansea's defence just dropping off a little bit. You've already picked out Cullen. Honing in on Swansea missing a ton of chances. I do like a trend up for Pompey. But quickly, Sam, just with your player's hat on, us as fans, when a game is 2-0 and then a side makes it 2-1 right at the end of the first half, us as fans always go, oh, that goal there with the timing of that is going to cause that. We know this game's going to swing back. If you're walking back to the dressing room, say you've scored the goals as well, Sam, you scored 2 goals, and then you go in and the opponent has just scored 1 at the back end of stoppage time. Do you have that feeling we do as fans? Oh, this is turning in the second half. This is going to go 2-2 or 3-2 to the side who've just scored.
I think you do. Obviously, you're going to be downbeat going in, even if you're still 2-1 ahead, for example. But maybe that's the shot in the arm, the warning shot, the blow that you need just to refocus, because they always say 2-0 is a dangerous score, and I've been out
Yeah, I never
there.
get that. Yeah.
I've been out there so many times though, and you're 60, 65 minutes and it's relatively comfortable. And you look at the clock and suddenly they score and it's 2-1. And that is it's such a deflating feeling to think like we're under pressure, we're underperforming now. They're in the ascendancy and we've got 25 minutes here where it just feels like it's going to be an onslaught. So maybe that concession before halftime gives you that 15 minutes just to
That's fair.
reset, manager to earn his money, players maybe to refocus, and you can come out and start maybe in the same manner that you did the first half. That's the only positive I can give you with it. I think, and I was at Chelsea Aston Villa yesterday, even though it was a really convincing home win in the end, there was that kind of 10 minutes in the first half, 10 minutes in the second half, Ollie Watkins mainly through him, where they looked like they were going to get that one back. And it would have just changed the dynamic and the feeling in the stadium. And it was a bit of a rarity yesterday that it was only those 2 little pockets of pressure. Otherwise, Chelsea ran out real comfortable winners. But yeah, it would have been it would have been hard for John Mousinho because I think this was probably the best 40. I think he said 47 minutes of the season where
including
they'd
the
limit
stoppage time. Yeah.
where they'd limited Swansea to nothing, and then Ogilvy, who I think has been one of a number of players that has probably struggled to be, at the level in the Championship, turns in an own goal. That's tough as well. If it's a piece of brilliance from 25 yards or a brilliant team move, you can probably accept it, but it's a bit of an individual error. As good as the ball in was, I think it was Cullen possibly putting the ball in. That would have been tough. After Richie getting his first goal, Murphy as well, as you say, is starting to look the business. He's starting to look like the signing that everyone anticipated in the summer. I think the problem right now is that, I mean, it's great those two guys getting goals. I think there is that feeling, Bishop will keep us competitive. Bishop will get us some goals. He's been out for the whole season, and it was probably a desperately worrying time for him, his family, everyone at the club. So just to see him back playing professional football is incredible after the period of time that he's been missing. So they're going to need help, basically, is what I'm saying, in January. Probably more than anyone, and they need to be in a competitive position, and then obviously add to the squad so they can try and stay in the division. So I think on the balance of everything at the weekend, that amazing save amongst others from Schmidt, the
Such a good
goalkeeper,
save. Yeah.
it's a really good point because you look at the statistics and you look at the footage. I think Swansea will probably feel they should have won the game.
The other 2-2 was Coventry 2, Cardiff 2. If you haven't, check out the podcast from late last week, because all Sam's mates have taken over at Coventry now, and he gave us some really good insight on what that might look like in terms of the staffing and the strategy Coventry are going to use. Look, Sam, obviously we're not really going to see that immediately after one day of training, basically. But it was a 2-2 draw. I think it was important for Lampard not to lose. Look, the hysteria is still going to be ridiculous. It's still going to be extreme views either way, just because it's him now. But that will do for a start. What was your take on Coventry 2, Cardiff 2?
Well, I thought it was a little bit of a fortuitous award for the penalty. That said, I think it fits a lot of the criteria in that his arm was out, and people would say it was an unnatural position, which is my least favourite bit of terminology in modern football, because there is no natural
make a note of
position.
that. So I use
There is
that as
no
often as
natural
I
position
can.
in football because you're getting pushed and you're running and you're tired and you're jumping and things are cramping up and you're trying to block a cross. I don't like them, but I don't think too many of the Cardiff fans will have really severe complaints. It probably was just about a penalty, if I can say it through gritted teeth. So that'll be a disappointment for Cardiff, having had I think it's 2 points from a possible 15 after this game. A really difficult period for them. I think Mate was maybe the story here, who's not been good so far this season, but was good, gets a goal. Robertson, we know, is a quality operator. I think a lot of Championship clubs would have liked him. I think it was a goal and assist for him on this occasion, but there's a little bit of, I suppose, uncertainty still around Cardiff. I don't know why I've started with them when the story this weekend was Coventry, but I just think there's uncertainty about Risa, and they probably need a bit of clarity now. And that's probably not going to come until January. But I think they'd have taken a point before the game. For Coventry, what did I notice? I suppose Mason Clark coming in, having not started many games since coming from Peterborough, player I really like. And, I think I said to you probably, I was surprised that I know it would have been Darren McAntony, negotiating to have him back at Posh last year, but I thought he could have done a good turn for Coventry had he been able to join a little bit earlier. So getting his first goal important. Obviously, he's one of the big winners, one of the big losers, I suppose. Lati Baudier was the one that I think dropped out for them to change the system. And Radoni's role in the team.
Gone to a back four, yeah?
Yeah, they were a back four, I think, at the weekend. 4-3-3 with kind of Sheaf, and then you got Eccles, and then a bit more of an advanced role for Rodoni, who seemed to be pulling left quite often. Obviously, some kind of pattern they were trying to work down that side. I'm not sure if that midfield will stay as it is. Obviously, Lampard is going to be very switched on in that area, and he's going to very quickly, I would suggest, identify where they can get goals from in there, where they can get creativity, and that's maybe something which they need to improve on. So I'd be interesting if it's Rodoni, if it's Eccles, if it's Torp, that Lampard's going to see a little bit of him in and maybe encouraged to get forward and be a little bit more of an attacking threat, because I think that's an area that needs improving, and they need to be better defensively. Clearly, they've conceded 2 in 5 straight games now, which is not great going. So I think a little bit like I was saying about Norwich, they need to get that right. And if I said there's a relaxed mood, I said at Norwich, I'll probably get shot down. I'll read that. But I think at Coventry, there is a concern about the performance level. Maybe, from the outside, we all say Coventry have got a good squad, got a great squad. Coventry should be doing better. But I think the reality is that performances across quite a large portion of the season now haven't been anywhere near the level that the supporters have been used to, and probably B, the supporters expected this season. So I think it ain't going to be a couple of months where they start winning game after game and steam up the table. I think it's probably a slightly tougher job than maybe we're giving it, slightly harder job than we're expecting it to be for Lampard going in there. So didn't think it was a particularly good performance, but got themselves a point at the death.
Speaking of tricky jobs, that would apply certainly to Wayne Rooney and Des Buckingham. And we've gone for Plymouth versus Oxford, which is an absolute, what do you call it, championship relegation filth down at the bottom of the table for this weekend. This is massive, Sam. Plymouth and their awful leaky week to do a 6-1 and then a 4-0. They're just above the relegation zone. 1 win in 9, and that came against Pompey, who are the bottom side at home. Plymouth, Sam, are bottom for goals conceded and bottom for away form, but they are playing at home in this mouth-watering matchup. And the issue here is Oxford, Sam. This has crept up on us a little bit. They had the hot start, the momentum. We kind of picked out that they were better at home than they were away. Their away form, I think they've played a game fewer possibly, is as bad as Plymouth's is as well. So we are getting a slide down the division here for Oxford, which is concerning. 1 win in 13. Over that period, Sam, Oxford are the worst team in the division. And that takes us back all the way to September 21st. This feels like a big game. And I know they've just conceded 10. I almost have Plymouth as favourites, Sam.
Well, you would do, given the home form. I mean, they've failed to score in 1, haven't they, at home? Just that 1 defeat against Stoke, which I forgot about last time we spoke. So, yeah, you'd have to back them. I mean, I think the similarities between both teams and managers at the moment, that away from home, they're searching for a formula which they just can't find. I think that's clear as day with Wayne Rooney, who I think made 6 changes, did he not, from
6?
Norwich? I think so. Christ. From Norwich to Bristol City at the weekend. He's tried the back 3. He's tried packing the midfield. He's tried leaving Whittaker out of the way. Giving himself a game.
I was going to say, is he going to register himself for January?
I don't know what he does really. I'd have to watch, some of the away games in their entirety. And I know the players pretty well. And obviously someone like JB, who's starting most games at home as part of the midfield 3, I think didn't get off the bench at Bristol City. So he's obviously trying to rest players. He's thinking that maybe some of the players aren't right for the games away from home. But I have sympathy with him because, as we've spoken of so often this season, they are a very different entity. home and away, and they are a very different entity in this league because of the location and because of the travel involved and all that. It's probably one for someone to do a deep dive with the numbers of miles that they have to travel per season and the amount of hours that they spend on the coach, so on and so forth. But it's a problem, and it's a problem that Oxford will have this time out because they've got to go down there. And yeah, probably similar for Des Buckingham. He has to look at a way of being harder to beat away from home, but yet posing a threat because they've not scored in the last 3 on the road. Obviously, Harris's goal scoring form, which lit up the Championship in August, has disintegrated to absolutely nothing. And now Dane Scarlett is in charge, maybe in that position. I read some positive stuff about Will Goodwin, who, if you remember, was at Cheltenham. They signed him, I think, in January.
Okay.
Centre forward with a bit more stature, who's come on, I think, in the last 3 games, but sounds like he had a decent effect at the weekend. But it's still really the defenders, Cameron Brannigan as ever, but more, and Brown, who I've spoken up copious occasions, that are getting the plaudits in the aftermath of what was certainly a difficult first half against Millwall, where I think the contrast between a team that have been there and done it in the Championship the last few seasons and a team that's very much finding their feet was very, very evident. So it was a really good point, and Tyler Goodrum has been one continuing bright spot for them. The calibre of goals that he continues to score is just sensational. So it's not desperation, but 1 win in 13 I've got noted down here. I think I'm right in saying that. And not 1 away from home. I'm with you. Our goal would be the favourites for this one. And I think Oxford's solitary win was that 1-0 against Hull, where Hull were, I think, guilty of passing up a few opportunities. So, even in that victory, it wasn't particularly convincing, and it's tough to know where Oxford's next win's going to come from at the moment.
We'll see if it comes at the weekend in our Melthorpe matchup at Plymouth. Sam and I will be filming the predictions straight after this, which will drop on Wednesday, so you can get our take on how this is actually going to pan out. Sam, let's round this out with the quiz in association with our good friend Fev. Fev's Football Analytics on Twitter at Fev's Football. Go and give him a follow. Sam, would you like to answer first, or would you like to ask first?
I will answer first today, please.
Okay. This week's round is called Homegrown. Your question for Sam, says Fev. If the league table... I've just seen what he's done. Only included goals scored by English players, can you name 3 of the top 6 sides? I'm going to repeat that again. So basically, who's got the best homegrown players, but they have to score goals as well. So who's got the best kind of homegrown strikers, really? If the league table only included goals scored by English players, can you name 3 of the top 6 sides?
There's a couple that have jumped out at me straight away, but obviously, considering we've been talking about science, I think Finazaz has represented Ireland, has he not?
Did he say English or British? English. Okay, yeah, you're right.
English, yeah. I'm going to go straight in with Millwall because that was my hunch.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah?
Millwall are 3rd in the English table.
I'd go straight for Sheffield United. I think...
Sheffield United are top
Are
of
they?
the English table. Yeah,
Terrific.
well done. You're 2 for 3. So you only have to get 3, don't you? And I can't beat you.
Well, the top scorers in the league I'd go Sunderland then.
This is outstanding. You've nailed it. Not only have you nailed it, you've given me 1, 2, and 3 as well. Yeah. So
I keep going.
You can keep going 3 for 3. You get nothing for these, but very impressed.
What about Josh Brownhill's Burnley?
They're 4th. Have you seen the answers?
No, I haven't. No.
You promise? This is ridiculous.
No, I promise.
Okay. Quite the performance, Mr. Parkin.
Well, I was thinking Campbell, Watmore. This is my chain of thought. Who was the other one I gave you? Campbell at Sheffield United, I was thinking.
Right.
Watmore at Millwall, I was
Oh, you're
thinking.
going with individuals. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Well, you got to quickly give me two more. You can have your two
Two
more guesses,
more.
but you're
Okay.
already 3 for 3.
Two more. Well, not Watford, certainly. They're scoring a lot of goals. What about Plymouth?
Plymouth are not there. Parkin shoots and misses for the first time in this
Can I have
quiz.
one more?
Of course.
Okay, I think it is either Luton or Sheffield Wednesday. I'll go for Luton.
You're right, actually. It's a very good performance there. The one you missed was Derby, who obviously, had a kind of core of
Hmm.
Britishy
Yeah,
homegrown players. And they've scored a lot of goals with the set plays as well, haven't they?
had I had more time, I would have got that.
Didn't need it, mate. I'm gonna give you a slap on the back for that one. That was good. I'm assuming, am I getting foreign players then?
You are getting, if the league table only included goals scored by English players, can you name 3 of the bottom 6 sides?
Oh, so I've seen the top six, obviously, which is helpful. Surely it's going to be Hull, isn't it?
Hull are not there.
Oh, mate, that's a terrible start. Um, who
Oh,
doesn't?
that's embarrassing. One of my guesses is bottom, I think.
Oh, okay, Sheffield Wednesday then.
No, forget that because I shouldn't be giving you clues. No, they're not there.
Okay. Who hasn't been scoring? Swansea.
Not there.
Oh, mate. I'm just going to go Pompey because they're bottom of the table. They're going to be bottom in this table as well.
Right, shall we end the podcast now? They're not there.
Oh, mate. Go on, read them out. Put them out of my misery. That's a whitewash on
Um,
the quiz.
hang on, 2 secs. Okay, so bottom are Plymouth.
Right. Oh, that was the one of your guesses, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Then QPR, Bristol City, Norwich, Preston, Watford. That was going up.
I'd have thought Norwich and Watford would have just scored an amount of goals that, they would have shared
No,
them
I
around the
mean,
nationalities anyway, wouldn't they?
I'd have definitely had Norwich and Watford down there.
You'd add Hull, though, wouldn't you, surely?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
I can
there
see
you go.
yeah.
Oh, well, I'll give you the win for that one. Let us know how you went.
That was a resounding victory, my friend.
It was embarrassing on my part, wasn't it? I'll take it. It's all in the name of entertainment. And we thank you for listening to another episode of the Championship Check-In podcast. Make sure you're giving a thumbs up on YouTube and on your podcast app and all that. And we will see you on Wednesday for Championship Round 18 predictions.